All right, so this will be a part 2 of the cabinet box build. We're doing the drawers, doors, and shelves today. We're using the same plywood that we use for our boxes for our shelves, and we're doing a little edge banding to make it look a little nicer. Now you can get these rolls with glue or without. I prefer to buy it pre-glued, so all I have to do is iron them on, and it's really easy to work with. As you can see, I'm using a razor to trim the excess off. This is obviously doable, but not the most efficient way. I, since this video, have bought a double-sided edge band trimmer, which works way better. For the drawer boxes, I'm using poplar hardwood. You can use plywood for this and edge band those as well. I just typically like using the hardwood. It's just a lot nicer wood anyways, but if you're looking for the cheaper route, you can definitely do the edge banding. On top of that, I do 3/4 inch plywood for the bottom of the drawer, whereas a lot of people will use a 1/4 inch panel. I just personally don't like 1/4 inch. 3/4 inch is just way more durable. Now these drawers specifically are going to be designed as you would design a drawer that would be like behind a cabinet door. So we're doing a cutout on the drawer facing for as like a handle. This one right here will be a big pull out used for the hamper. Since the overall size of the hamper is pretty big, we're using plywood for everything, and we're going to do some edge banding to make it look nice. Just as with the shelves, we're using some maple pre-glued edge banding. I believe they make iron specifically for edge banding, but they were pretty pricey, and I got this on Amazon for like 15 or 20 bucks. I find the trick to edge banding like this is just take your time, be patient, and just make sure that you're paying attention to the details and trying to get that sealed up along the plywood as best as possible. This pullout right here is going to be for the laundry room. It's going to actually be over top the hamper, and this is going to be a drying rack. So we're drilling some 1/2 inch holes that we are going to place some 16 inch aluminum rods through once we get it done. Next up, we're doing our shaker style cabinet doors. Right here, our router is set up with our tenon bit, which will be the male end for this joint. I have a separate bit for my router, which would be for the mortise, but I actually prefer to set up my table saw here with my dado stack. I find it to be much more efficient and faster, and as you can see in this video clip, that it does a perfect job for that. After you've got all your mortise and tenons done, then you're going to cut your center panels and start the glue up process. So right here, I glue up the rail and then slide it into the stiles. I'll use some very small 5/8 pin nails to just tack those in and just secure those while the glue dries. So now we're going to go ahead and secure our hamper pullout that we made earlier to our shaker style panel door. I used to glue and trim nail these together, but I found out that one, you can't adjust it like that. If the front's ever damaged, that you have to replace the entire drawer. So just screwing these on is a way better option. All right, once you got all your shaker panel doors put together, next step I usually do is I go ahead and drill the holes with my Craig jig here for the European hinges. Side note, if you've never used one of those before, always test it on a scrap piece before you do your actual door. You don't want to mess up your brand new door. All right, next up is the sanding, which for me is probably one of my least favorite parts about woodworking, but this part is very important. So take your time, be patient, but be paying attention while you're doing this. I always start with an 80 grit sandpaper, and that is generally just going to be for getting any of the wood putty off or smoothing out any of the joints. Once you've done that, you're going to come back with some 120 grit, which is going to get rid of any scarring left from the 80 grit. At this point, everything should be looking pretty good, but we're going to come back with some 220, and we're going to hand sand all the edges and all the flat panels to get this wood extra sexy. So now we've gotten all of our boxes, our drawers, our shelves, everything's sanded, everything's cleaned up, and now we're ready to start caulking stuff in. Now this may be a personal preference for some people, and obviously if you're just clear coating the inside of your boxes and your drawers, you're not gonna do this part. But if you're painting it, I personally prefer everything to be caulked in. I just think it looks better when it's painted. Now the key to this process for me is you're going to cut the tip of the caulk at about 45 degrees and cut the hole small initially. You're better off to cut it too small than too big. There may be other ways of doing this, but this way works best for me. So I run my bead and then I'll come back with a damp cloth and I'll do the initial wipe. Once you hit it with that, I'll come back with my finger and then just clean it up and then just wipe the excess off my finger with the rag as I go. So that concludes part 2 of this series. Next up will be of me painting everything. So y'all stay tuned for part 3. Thanks again for watching. And if y'all have any questions, leave a comment below.